Studies show 30 to 40% of violent crime in Rockford is domestic related, and the City of Rockford's Violence Prevention Coordination Council is expanding its resources to help those impacted by domestic and community violence.
WIFR reporter Alyssa Kelly talks with the coordinator of the council and Voices of Inspiration about the importance of using community resources for survivors.
So we tried to put ourselves in the community members' shoes.
How do we do business different? This is the question the Violence Prevention Coordinating Council asked itself when discussing ways to help people in our community impacted by crime.
What came out of that was that we need to go door to door and actually literally meet folks where they are.
The council believes the first step is to remove barriers, things that prevent people impacted by domestic and community violence from getting assistance.
The traditional community resource fairs, we think about hosting it in one location. Maybe they don't have childcare at that time or lack of transportation. We thought that it was very important to just go out into the neighborhoods where they are, and so that it would eliminate those challenges.
It's one more step of trying to get the commitments from the community to stop the violence.
The council is made up of several organizations, including Voices of Inspiration, which packs boxes of food for those in need.
A lot of things have happened to them, and so by providing food, at least that's one avenue that they don't have to worry about being fed.
We just want to be there for them.
In Rockford, Alyssa Kelly, WIFR News.
Starting Friday, the organization will begin door-to-door visits in select neighborhoods throughout the Rockford area.